everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Here we are. It is only just 3 days left before the full moon in Libra happening on the 6th of April. And yes, I'm cutting it a little bit short with this report, but I will also touch on certain topics that would be helpful otherwise a little bit after this full moon as well. So the good thing is growth. The good thing also is this interesting feeling of naivety fading out, and people are no longer wanting to talk about certain things, participate in certain cultures, be part of certain people's lives, do certain things around the house even. It feels like a very, very certain and a kind of a big deal of a moon for quite a lot of people, as they are now ready for a big change. And I also believe and trust that certain people will be able to afford certain experiences or get certain goods, or now can make a certain amount of money to be able to pay their expenses. And also the feeling of what you really want to do here and what you really want to be here is going to be able to become. But then there's this also other thing. People are still spending time, energy, money, anything, spending themselves on things that are not really that good for them. So, like people trying to get creative in a way that is detrimental to their health. Maybe people are trying to grow businesses that are not sustainable. Not necessarily that they're bad businesses, it's just that they're not really good enough for you. So I talk a little bit about this on Patreon, about doing things that you are pretty adamant you want to be a part of, but then understanding only later, wow, I was really not sure of myself. Wow, I was selling myself short. I plugged into a group of people, or I plugged into a reality that it was absolutely nothing to do with my heart and nothing to do with the greater world. And yes, it's not just about niche circumstances and being kind of plugged into, and also being a niche person around other people. It could also be that, but I feel that for certain people it's also a real romanticism of certain things becoming very strong, and people would rather keep things open and kind of healthy as well, and growing, rather than really think about results. So there's always like a result-seeking part in my aura. I always try to help people get the best out of their time. And also I understand that there is like an altruistic part and the fresh, kind of naive and innocent part. So we're trying to balance it all, and we're trying to make sure that the worth is obvious and it shows. Libra likes to set things up. Quite a big thing about the sign is that it looks for tranquility, it looks for eternity, it looks for peace, it looks for justice, and it looks for things that are perfectly proportioned. So the one thing that I am feeling for you guys is that if you're really doing it and you're putting quite a lot of brawn into it, whatever it is that you are taking part of, it will probably shine. Any kind of effort, almost any kind of dream can be answered today. But did you really think that you would like to have these results for a lifetime? Do you really want this commitment for a long time? Do you want to make a very solid plan? Because also the question is, like, the body fades with time, changes come into one's life. A lot of our choices could be sometimes particularly immature, also because of this Lilith and Seppo in the sign of Leo. And also immaturity can be quite a big deal for some people, as they are willing to be a part of certain things that are not to do with their greater good or not to do with their greater psyche, but that what if feeling comes, but like, let me, I want to help, or I want to make, or I want to be. Then talking about the lamb to the slaughter idea, as Aries is about like the lamb going to the slaughter. It is not actually that bad, but it is kind of about this confidence in wanting to provide something that you don't necessarily need to provide, wanting to be an altruist, wanting to be part of a picture that may not necessarily give you anything in very quick time. So in due time, quite a lot of it will fade out, or quite many people may not necessarily see those friends or those communities come through for them. It's not necessary. Some of it that we might be a part of is not necessary. And the way that I'm seeing it is, my gosh, we still have to come back to that archaic root system in order to just basically make sure that we're not just frilly and pretty and funny and healthy and happy, but also kind of pointless, or have no real say or no real power. So there's kind of like a question mark here. I'm trying to balance this out because there's also a question mark in me as I'm noticing like quite a lot of life at the moment is happening like right before my eyes, and I'm noticing a lot of people walking into very achieved also and very altruistic and very passionate spaces, but also the question is, what are you actually doing? What are you actually providing? So, for example, if you're going into a certain type of circle of people that are producing certain kind of music or holding certain type of ceremonies or making certain crafts, what are they saying? What are those energies doing? Are they like what are they providing other people? So like also I think it's time to understand what is the big picture and the overall success also of your story and other people's stories. Is this really necessary? Is this needed? Because with this energy comes a lot of frill, a lot of also bugs, a lot of parasites, a lot of unhappy endings, so even though some of it is looking very healthy and good for you, and it's looking like it's just about to like cause a beautiful storm, and there are lots of people so well and wise and very in the heart about what they're producing, what they're talking about, what they really want to do here. And then also there is this other side of it is just like, well, that was a non-event, or that was a weird turning of events, or, well, we didn't actually really have to do this, or like I made this really big picture, I like painted this giant mural, and actually at the end of the day, it wasn't really worth my time. I'm also like very conscious of people that are fresh and young and they're trying their hand at something different. For example, they're starting to make clothes, they're starting to make, I don't know, postcards or businesses, anything like that to do with, arts and self-expression, also to do with any kind of scene, club or culture or traditional worldview. And then I'm also seeing that for you guys, if you are interested in starting something brand new, really take into consideration, my God, take into the consideration time, money spent, resources, what you're really getting out of it, who is there supporting you, how are you going to make your way, how are you going to pay somebody. Is important to know, for example, if somebody is indebted to you, if you are in debt to somebody else. Later, loans. Oh my gosh, loans. Having to have a certain amount of money to start a certain enterprise, having to be a very big person now, suddenly also having to step up. And also for the older or the more mature people, there's going to be just a big question of, did you really need to be doing this? Did you need to be a part of this? Is this what you're really about? And also try to give away or drive away things that you don't want. So the full moon is always about completion to a degree, or a full blooming of something. And yes, Libra does speak of people, and it does speak of people getting on, and sometimes it is about romantic or partnership-based relationships, but it's not just about this. It's about letting go, moving on, as it is a sign of deification. Libra is a sign of elimination, and allowing things to be no longer good enough for you to hold on to, which is a very normal process in nature, obviously. So if you want, you can ask me or any other guide as to how you can allow space by also being pretty honest with yourself and very, very true, and making sure that you just don't keep things around that you don't actually really want to have around. And quite a lot of it is about like letting go, and quite a lot of people really have to see and even tell themselves off. It's like, I've been keeping on with these karmic records. I've been trying so hard to be a parent to somebody else. So I've been walking so far, and I've been learning so much, and I've been trying so hard to afford a certain life, or I've been part of a certain career, a certain story, and actually, would you believe it, didn't bring me anything. That didn't bring me anything. This won't feel like anything later on. That person over there will never really fully speak to me the way that I want them to speak to me, or I will never get my results. I won't get a result here. That is something that Libra has to See, if you like, I mean, this is the yum or yuck response also, but it's more than that. I mean, it's not as boisterous this year as it usually is because we're in a rabbit year and it is about philosophies and it is about design. And having a pretty clear, very clean cut picture as to where you are, what you're a part of, who is there with you, who is there next to you, and also at the same time as being quite hard and heavy on where you'd like to rather be and what you would rather take your time doing. This also happens sometimes. You've got to basically believe in things that are actually working and keep on telling them so, keep on affirming people in your life that are good, keep on feeding those relationships, keep on filling up those bank accounts, keep on making friends where it matters, keep on doing the thing that is going to get you somewhere, and eventually letting go of all of this fluff. So form follows function. It's a very designer, logical year. It's not about making fun, making friends just because you can, although I do understand that some people need a watering down of their previous systems, and that's where we just go and do crazy stuff and have a certain type of happy-go-lucky experiences just to make us feel less pushed or tied into certain ideas, ideologies, into certain work. So yeah, there are hobbies, and there are random things that people do absolutely randomly just to make it a happier life. But then also, like I'm saying, anything matters. We are in Aries. This is your chance. This is a cruel time of year for some of us because we've got to get to the top. Certain people have to work it off. Certain people have to try. Certain people have to practice certain type of ideologies. They have to really push on, and they have to make it. They have to build it out of nothing. And where there's no way and no how, Aries will give you a strategy. So this is a very, very phenomenal time also for the master of anything, as you obviously maybe feel that about you, or maybe you are already understanding where the masteries are, or where it's safe to say that you've mastered something, or even when you have mastered a relationship with something or somebody else. So the whole turning of events here basically is to stop degrading yourself, stop patterns and psychologies that keep on putting you down. Seeing also where your mother, father, or other ancestry have somehow involved in your teaching or schooling and made you feel low. Also, it's to do with class systems and holding yourself back from certain experiences or forward towards certain experience based on a certain type of community leveling or community value. So, for example, if you were told to never enter a certain place because it was above your life standard expectation, that has to change. So a lot of people, I feel, they have to become very, very computed in how they'd like to see their world. And yeah, the dream and what you really expect from your life does have to awaken for certain people, because otherwise it is basically led away into a very unsightly, gray, and kind of like pedestrian world. So why this is a bother to me is because people are being disregarded, and they feel dismayed. There's lots of energies that are working towards making people feel confused and being just little rabbits inside one big burrow, not knowing where they stand, not knowing where they're meant to be, not knowing who they are or what they're really here for. There's lots of people that are just basically scooped under the one rule book. There are a lot of people that are basically asked to conform and to keep on politely saying thank you. And also all of those other people that maybe don't feel that they're just a number, just a barcode. They're sort of feeling like, well, for the fear of not making it, I'm going to have to stick it out at this job, or for the fear of not knowing how to make money, or how to make friends, or how to make my life make sense. I'm going to try and give up what I really want. Yeah, to do what, well, I guess people kind of should have. I'm going to try and help these people. I'm going to associate to a lower standing position in life, or a much harder place to be, in order to kind of make it, because I don't believe that what I've got is really that important. So follow your dreams, basically. I think that also, as well as keeping a very tight idea on what is and what isn't necessary in the world today, and what cannot be. And also, like, how you find your territory, how you find your audience from here on is very individualistic. Where people end up from here on is very much a one of a kind energy. It might be just you and maybe somebody else, honestly, that really makes it to a certain place. It could be a very certain person that gets to speak on a certain topic. It could be a very, very good idea that comes in during this time that is completely not obvious to anybody else. But this makes sense only maybe to you. So the individual is a very, very big sense maker here. But we also have to like make sure that your design, your life, how you design your life, what you do here, how you power through, what you eat, where you go, how you wake up, how you dress, where you show up, what kind of people you mix with. Like, we've got to make sure that it actually stands the test of time. And not really, also, it's not just about this. It also has to make you happy, and it has to have quite a lot of color in it. It has to be a very colorful life. It can't just be like, well, I guess I sort of kind of rolled into a relationship, I suppose, or, well, that was kind of a job, but now this is a kind of a job. So this kind of, sort of, kind of rolling around, rolling back also. This is interesting because this is very individualistic. It depends on which timeline you are on. We'll have multiple timelines available to us at the beginning of the year, which is great. So much opportunity sometimes in Aries. Timelines, okay. Some of us don't really have it in us to do the whole thing. Some of us don't really have the full capacity or like the right spirituality or the right state of mind to really be able to afford certain things, but some people can't but make friends, and suddenly they're just like out there. And there's also like kind of like an emotional Tourette's, like almost like wanting to just suddenly provide, wanting to suddenly speak out, and wanting to suddenly be unafraid and to be a part of a big culture, a big community, and splash color. We can afford to do this at the moment in Aries, and there's kind of no wrong, really. The individuality is so important to us, so precious to us. A lot of people really, really count on this individuality to help us through and to be like a point to make. So we really don't want anything but an individual these days. And then also, this is quite hard to understand. There are certain types of tribes and pictures that are painted at the moment that are just absolutely not worthy of your energy, of your time. It would never work the way that you would love it to. It could never. It's like certain partnerships also, like this could never be what I wanted it to be, So like, also it's hard. It's like working with raw elements, working with raw materials. Like, it's like, for example, if you're cooking something, like say, if you're using meat, it's hard to make a dessert out of meat, although it probably is possible, but it's just not what the original raw material is about. It's like very, very healthy also, like for you guys to imagine and to understand that there is a certain unlimited time that is coming here, and there is a certain type of dreamer timeline where people can just suddenly organize everything exactly as they wanted it to be. It is a very big possibility. I'm seeing that happening for a few people. Like, I don't know how, and I don't know why. I got everything. I got my house, I got my community, I've got exactly what I wanted with these people. I now have a complete say in what I like. I now have found my true tribe, or I've found a new meaning, or I have found a true person or presence. That's also happening, maybe. I finally found that golden mean. So coming back to Libra, Libra is the golden mean. It's like there is no more and then there is no less. And then how to also believe in yourself as you're going through these golden means and to hold yourself up. I think quite a lot of people really want it to be more than they can afford right now, or more than is possible. It's like this, okay? Like, for example, you're making a giant piece of art, and you're making it beautiful and perfect as you like, but you kind of also limited, like you have only certain materials. You know, it's like, oh, if only I had some sparkles, or if only I had some very expensive paint, or if only I had some like golden leaf, you know, if only. Sometimes we don't, and we can't. And also, yeah, maturity about what can and cannot be afforded. Jupiter is quite close to the sun, Chiron is close to the sun. What materials have you got to play with in your life? What do you really want to make? And also, can you produce that which you think you want to produce? Is it possible? Can you be a part of certain story or narrative, or can you be a certain type of person? Or is there a scarcity also? And yeah, I think that we have to also understand where there is like an abundance, an absolute truth, an absolute safety, and then also where there are things that are scattered, like so also with demographics and where you want to put your product, how you want to market your product, for example, and also understanding, like, for example, a certain type of deficiency. If you don't have it yet, if you don't hold that space yet, even for yourself. And it has to be said that we now probably are in a pretty good place to see the whole world for what it is, as a people and as individuals. And I also trust that we can now look at our life and break it down, and somehow through somebody else or through just ourselves or through some kind of a crazy experiment, we can really bring it all down to size. Okay, that's not going to work today. That's pointless. That's going to take a lot of effort. This is karma. You know, that's going to take me ages to make. Like, this is going to be worthless eventually later on, or like this is not going to stand the test of time. But there are certain things that are completely wow and amazing, and they absolutely hold that place. They hold that potential. They hold that opportunity. It's kind of like imagining it as a bank of seeds and then knowing the ones that you do and do not want to produce. And then also growing with other people and growing maybe with another person, tribe or collective, to be able to work and function as a group or as a couple. And it does feel like it's not just about couples and working together, it's about true teamwork and true potential being obvious now. And supporting energies are probably going to be very, very nice and clear. And also those of us that are not supported, like for example, you walk out there, you get absolutely nothing. Like you're trying to sell your wares and you haven't gotten anybody to notice you, or you're trying to say something and you are landing on deaf ears, as they say. There's going to have to start to be, yeah, obvious, or yeah, it's going to maybe also be a job for some people. And I'm feeling that this is really hard for me to see. There are some people that are going to end up in jobs or having certain type of relationships that are very karmic, and it's like every time I go out there I get nobody noticing me. Like every time I go out distributing these flyers I get yelled at, you know, or like every single time I try to care for this person they get really aggressive with me, and I feel bad. I feel that I've spent my energy or my loyalty is Libra, on absolutely nobody. Or like say I have, made certain cookies, for example. I've made cookies and they ended up getting really soggy, and I couldn't sell those cookies anymore. You know, like these things, like a very fast way that things just don't work. Like I went and then I looked, and then that was that. So it's a very laughably obvious time. If you also are getting disciplined by life or other people, and if you're constantly being told no, or you're constantly self-telling off, and if you are making, for example, nothing from something, and if you've never really had friends somewhere, or if you could never really fully establish yourself, it's like quicksand. Or it's like a sandcastle that basically gets washed away by the waves. Futility is a very, very possible sign of, how can I say, real karmic need to understand how things work. You have to really, really know how they work. You have to really go deep into the process, like it won't make any sense if you just wing it today. Winging anything is very hard, but also because we're in Aries, it is kind of a time of the child or the newborn, and it is kind of about making mistakes and falling and making some more mistakes, but then also having fun and kind of accidentally landing it. And I definitely feel like certain signs like Sagittarius or Gemini this month would just be landing it by accident. But then also we got to like stop this and also see what are you left with at the end. I'm still going to ask, what are you left with at the end? It's like, for example, you go to a beautiful place and, you enjoy, la-di-da-di-da-di-da, and through a certain cause and effect, you'll have something left. What is the sediment? What is left? What is the finished design? What is the finished product? What is the ending? Like, what is the full spectrum that you are left with? So the process is fun. Altruism is fun. Being part of a certain people or personality is fun. Having affairs, having sex, having love, having fun, like fondling life, being joyful, enjoying, being fondled, it's a good feeling. But then something also has to be seen at the end of the day. Perfect example, drinking. Like, say, going out, getting drunk, having such a great time, and eventually waking up with a headache next to somebody else that you don't know who they are, or why they're in your bed, or what happened to me. Also, yeah, I think it's very important to ask how you are showing up and what you are also kind of practicing with another person, and how else can you do that. So, for example, if you are constantly practicing polyamory, or if you're constantly practicing some kind of like a power of speech that goes like way over everybody's head, for example, if you're constantly screaming or yelling, or you're participating in a certain type of criminal activity. There's a lot of criminals out and about these days. Rabbit is kind of slightly famous for it. There's going to have to be some kind of a good for you feeling at the end of the day. Like, for example, this is how the story ends. Conclusions. Libra is awesome with conclusions. Like, I went to the fair, I sold all my pies, and I ended up with, like, say, 300% profit on what I've spent on the ingredients. And I'm so happy, and that was a fantastic day. And I made lots of friends, and I got lots of numbers, and people got my business card, and I'm so happy. And I could potentially get a catering job out of this. Great, okay, that's a very, very beautiful, radiant result. It would put a smile on your face and a swing in your step. Only go with that. Like, that put a smile on my face and a swing in my step. That made me feel like I could jump up for joy. That's really good. But everything else that isn't joyful, it's not jolly enough, it just doesn't make you feel like you can really sing your song or feel your light, is basically pointless and is becoming a meaningless thing. Then we have to also understand, why do we do that? For example, I went to the fair, I sold only half of what I've made, and I've made almost no money over the top of what I've spent on the ingredients. And I've had a lot of connections, but I didn't really make any new friends. They were just old friends, and I didn't really understand why I was there. Like, this is just an example. So this is like a gray energy. Anything that is given to you that is gray, or that is kind of decayed, or is a hand-me-down, or it's kind of like a sad sort of story, or it's a shallow story, during this time just shouldn't be. So, for example, don't buy hand-me-downs during Aries, unless you are like a master of hand-me-downs and you have some kind of whimsical way of using hand-me-down things. It's not a good idea to recycle, to revive, to keep on trying to do that which was not possible before. There's so much energy. Why don't we as people use it just in a way that is fresh and more progressive? Like, it's kind of about going somewhere where you have never been before, seeing something you've never seen before, trying hard at things that you really actually truly do love and enjoy, being around people that you do actually truly value and have in your heart, doing everything you can to make that thing happen that you really want to happen. You know, it's a very, very big dreamer's landscape. And then all of those, oh, making do and oh, woe's me or poor me, or like all of those little things have to go, at least for now. Like, and if you have some time, it's great to make this month as holy and sensitive as possible, and try, like, keep up with things, go there, make sense, compete if you want, make something very, very clearly, obviously yours, make things about you, create a very, very obvious design that is just made for you, making that which you want to make, doing that which you want to do, having absolute intelligence also about what that is and what that means. So it's not just like, I think I've got a dream, I guess. You know, it's like also about the ins and ends of that dream. Like, say, if you get an Etsy account, or if you're trying to do some kind of online marketing, or if you decided to make a few brands, or, you know, make a different type of idea happen. It's just a very, very good for you time, healthy time. So also, on the brighter note, I think a lot of people are coming to a certain state of health. There is a healthiness energy, or there is actually even quite a lot of rubbish stuff that's happening out there. It sort of still equates to something healthy and more productive than normal. Healthiness, and sure, maybe even like having an argument with somebody, but having those chemicals or those hormones come back to you. Also, that's a possibility. Sure, like, you know, falling on your face a couple of times, making some bad decisions, but also actually making some very healthy choices. It's a healthier time than normal, and there's going to be a lot of keys opening a lot of doors, and a lot of programs becoming dismantled, also no longer cherished. We want to become a healthier people, basically. It's just whether or not you want it, there's still going to be kind of like a price to pay, which is your effort, energy, and time. So it's like you've got what it takes, and it's about investing that. And yes, it is about speaking up. Yes, it is about competition. Yes, it is about coming of age for certain people. And for a lot of people, it's about growing up and starting to understand, like, I don't want to just like sit there alone and study music. I'm going to go out there and get myself an audience. Or like, say, I don't want to just like sit here at home, like folding my laundry and taking care of somebody. I want to make friends. I want to get to know somebody. I want to get to know the bigger picture of the world. So there is this like, I'm no longer, it's like a requalifying time. It's like I'm no longer qualified to just be a housewife. I would actually like to, you know, be a producer, for example, or make something that I really can stand by. Or I want to do something that helps me learn or helps me grow. Or I want to put this dream into creation. You know, so there's also quite a lot of us that won't be able to do that because of the little missing ingredients. You know, so maybe here you need a very sturdy professional to help you. You know, so for example, no matter how much I try, my business doesn't make an impression on anybody. Okay, good. You have to know how to market yourself. You have to ask somebody who's a really good, like a born marketer, somebody who's already grown many brands. Or for example, you'll say, I still don't understand how to make money from this, or how to also make my relationship work, or how to, I don't know how, like I've got missing ingredients. And then you have to get going. You got to go and find a friend that can help you. There's going to always be a missing link during a Chiron-based time, and there will always be parts of us that have to rethink and redesign things. We have to like fall back on other things that we've produced, or other ideas that we have previously enjoyed. You know, also intrigue, you know, what we've been intrigued by, you know, what we've really loved to be, what we really love to do, what we really wanted our lives to be alike to previously, also since we were a child. And then, yeah, like that's also another thing. Some of it is very childish. And then another part of me is feeling that we'll still come back to the most roots, basic results. So also, like, I suppose there is a question like, why does this matter? Why do I even need to dream anything up or try something different? I'm going to always end up back to square one. And the answer is not always. If you wanted to have a completely different life suddenly and to change your timeline to the point where you don't recognize yourself anymore, this is probably the only time. And yeah, just a little weird, it's a little wacky, but we have to let go of so much to be able to afford that big change. So before you just believed that you would only be at a certain level, now it's going to be a completely different mind-boggling game. It's just about growing exponentially and letting your body adjust also, because sometimes the body takes a little bit of time to understand or remember or remind itself of certain things, as your soul or your mind or your psyche wants to have a completely different type of tribe or completely different type of team, or if you've really started to believe in something else out there, in something greater out there, and like the sudden change will start to evolve you, but it's just going to take a little time for every single piece to be able to slot in. So if you wish to, you could dream way outside of that which you've ever dreamed. You can imagine something really great and go for it. Like, so there is like a stand-up comedy show and you always wanted to try, go for it, go for it. Open mic, go for it. Make your Etsy account today, make it. Make your business idea shine, make it. Buy and sell, sure, okay, great, good. Make something, change it. Your business ideas have to change, Jupiter. Business ideas, also how you see yourself, how you see the light of day, what you really want for your children, what you'd really like for your family. But also there is another thing here. It really takes a freakishly strong person at the moment to be able to battle the elements. So the first part of Aries, since March 21st, we had a really bubbly and wishy-washy part, and it was a very easy little transition from Pisces into Aries. It wasn't as pushy or as dark as it can be sometimes for certain people. But then you see we are now going into this part of Aries where it's a little bulky. So the next sign is Taurus. And there are a few aspects in Taurus now, like Venus and Uranus and Juno, and Vesta is almost there, pretty much. And there's the North Node and Mercury. So there's quite a stellium in Taurus, and it's a fixed sign, obviously. So this bulkiness is already starting to take its toll. It's a serious person that gets it now. If you're really serious, if you really want to do it, if you want to sit down, pen to paper, if you want to work it out, if you want to make it, if you want to make it meaningful, if you want to fully fulfill yourself or other people in the story, if you're fully ready to commit, if you're now kind of like a sportsman or woman, if you are training every day, if you're trying hard, if you're driving your life forward, if you are unafraid of complications, if you're becoming master of what you do and who you are, this is going to be one of the only times to put the unimaginable career together. It's very good for us to try. It's kind of like a go hard or go home kind of window for a lot of people, but because of burnout also, like because of how much energy it takes, itchy nose, to get real and also get rid of that which is obstructing your path, to get rid of competition, to get rid of that decision-making process that's too long, to get rid of those previous karmas. My gosh, it takes a real warrior this time, I feel, to push through and to make that next choice. So if you have it in you, congratulations. And if you don't have it yet, don't worry. But there are lots of people that are just like, yeah, it's okay, I'm just going to relax. Look, I can't make it through. I'm like falling asleep. I can't do this. If you're feeling that kind of weakness and instability, maybe that's not your choice. Maybe that's not your game. But also believe in yourself. If you have a part of you that is complacent during a time that is a big trial, for example, this is the day to do it, and you've fallen asleep, You have to understand what for. What for that day came and you were not able to compete. So we have to also understand if we keep on self-jeopardizing and not showing up for ourselves or our loved ones, and not doing those things that we've always imagined or dreamed. And if you are not sure what is going on, everything is in pieces and nothing is right, and you're scattering, you have got to talk to yourself. You have to put yourself together. Maybe nothing of what you have going on is necessary for you. My gosh, that is going to be a lot of healing that some people need. The idea basically is become whole and kind of chunky during this time. It's like a big chunk, everything in one block, being able and available in one big chunk, one big piece. It's about like a big slice of life. It's about a strong core. It's about many people supporting you. It's about being maybe famous for certain people, and maybe for certain other people, it's about just being fabulous or being the winner or being like a sudden star. It's definitely about success and winning. It is about winning. And then in some cases, it is going to be really hurtful and painful if you keep on setting yourself up to win and then giving up halfway or not wanting to do those things that you've always kind of in your heart of hearts wish to be or do. So that's the thing. And also being ununited, having no show, being dropped out of a certain type of situation. Also, it pays to see where you are with that, because it's going to be no problems. Maybe for certain people, it's going to be absolutely no problems. Some things can be fixed and some things can be revamped, and certain other things they just won't. So it's components. We want a full life. We want a full life. Life in pieces, like say having 3 different jobs, having tiny little components to take care of. Unless you have a lot of Virgo or a lot of Gemini in you, I just don't think that is just easy. I don't think it's easy to work on sort of a componential basis, with having lots of little splashes of energy and lots of tiny little lives and little stories and small wins. Like, for example, selling a whole shop of trinkets is just not a very easy thing for majority of population. It's a nice feeling having one solid energy, one solid base, or one solid faith, one way of life, trying to, in a way, massage one's life into just wholeness and wholesomeness, and a feeling of jointedness, like everything is joined instead of things falling apart, and then you having to multitask and microtask to be able to solve it. So it's a very important part of growing up, is to have solidity and to no longer allow scatter or mismatching to disempower your day. So thank you very much. I hope this was interesting. Have a look at my Patreon and my website. Also, I have new contact details on my website as well. Thank you and have a wonderful time. Bye.